Cheryl, Cheryl is our timekeeper. There's a trap door up here somewhere. First one was
at the end of 3 minutes. You're either going to hear my hand chime, or you can hear the heart from my phone. First up is height.
So you want to put somebody on deck? This is the on deck chair.
On deck.
Next in line.
Oh, I don't know who's next.
If you're on next, you should sit here.
I kind of just put them in the order of which they received. Actually, you're next.
I'm on there.
Right.
Okay, so I have two photos. They're both of the Great Buddha of Kamakura, Japan, and I really wanted to show the second one, which is just the face, but I wanted to show you perspective and like how big it is. And these are like real Japanese people praying there, not just tourists or whatever. So like I got to take a trip, an EF tour with students and some teachers at Grand Rapids High School that had been postponed for 4 years. I started planning for it and saving for it in 2018. We were scheduled to go, bags packed, everything ready in March of 2020, and then COVID. And so it got postponed several years, but finally this March we got to go to Japan. We went to Tokyo and then and Kamakura, and then some other towns on the way to, and then took the bullet train to Kyoto and Hiroshima and Osaka. And it was the most amazing trip ever, and I really want to go back. And I was going to go back by myself this spring, and my parents' health is kind of declining, and so I'm kind of going to postpone it until I retire and have more flexible schedule, not just like the last 2 weeks of March. We went the last 2 weeks of March, and I'd like to go like the last week in March and in early April, because that's when the cherry blossoms are in full bloom. But when we got and most of the trip it was raining, like because that's the time if it rains. This time it like came out and like it was blue sky. And so you can go to the second one, because that was like just so you can see how big it is. And I just love this photo. And then since then, like I've seen other pictures, like there's art for art's sake art for heaven's sake there was art in the park in last May, and there was a woman there that did like a painting on canvas of the Buddha, and I bought that. And so just these images are really like meaningful to me, like spiritually, but like I just that was 3 minutes. I was like, fast. Anyways, I just like was meaningful, like to me, the trip. I'd highly recommend going to Japan sometime.
Thank you, Heidi. Yeah. So my picture, the first one is taken at Hearst Castle. Went
Wait,
there.
step back.
Okay. Hearst Castle, went there in July last year. How many of you been there? Little pricey, but it's really interesting. It's fascinating. And I like this picture because it's so peaceful, and the serenity of it. The water, is just completely, without any kind of ripples or anything. And I just enjoy the picture. When you go through there, you're with like 35 or 40 people, and it's not peaceful and serene. It's in fact, there were some parts of that picture that I wanted to put in, but there were people, leaning over the rails. But I enjoy that picture. The second picture is Northern Lights, and went up to Alaska, to Fairbanks, Alaska. There's sort of a ring around the North Pole that attracts the electromagnetic particles that come off the sun. Norway, Iceland, Greenland. Last year we were trying to get to Yellow Horse, which is a town in Northwest Territories, Canada. But the fires were going, and they evacuated the entire 20,000 people out of the Yellow Horse. And we had to cancel. We had 9 people going, the relatives, cousins, and so forth. This year we tried it again. There were 4 of us. We went to Fairbanks, Alaska, which is a good place to see it. My cousin teaches at the University of Calgary, and he's a kind of a coach for this because he's an expert on the Northern Lights. He launches equipment out of Vandenberg, to study what's going on up there. But he notified us after we got up there that there had been 2 what are called CMEs, coronal mass ejections. And that nobody could predict that. You can predict that every 11 years, the whole thing's gonna peak out and then it starts going down and then it comes back up and then another 11 years, then it peaks out. But there are these big masses of, they call them bubbles of plasma and particles that were heading towards the Earth. And one of them was supposed to arrive and maybe hit Earth, maybe not. And the second was supposed to hit square on. So we went out 4 nights and shot, and this was the very last night, and this was the best night. I've seen the Northern Lights 4 times, twice in the Yukon that were green, but this night the color wasn't there visible to the naked eye. But when you take a long exposure on your tripod and then you wait for it to process and then come up on the back of your camera, it's exciting. It's just really, really exciting. Thank you.
Dwayne?
Right. Oh,
Or should I? So when I was looking through my pictures, which I kind of do every year, I try to sort them into different categories. And usually I have like 5 categories. The most challenging to take in camera, the one that's the greatest adventure to get, the most fun to take, and the best learning experience, and sort of the just because my personal favorites. So this one was actually my best learning experience. It doesn't look like much, but I took a workshop in Madeline Island, Wisconsin, and one day was devoted to mindful photography. And when they asked me what I like to shoot, it was like rodeos, bicycle races, horse races, birds, and kind of kids doing things. And I realized I don't really like to take, I like to take action things. So this was a day where I had to sit first in a circle for 30 minutes looking at bushes. And luckily for me, I don't know if you remember that little picture I had from the last competition, a little caterpillar dropped in a leaf in front of me. And I thought, well, thank you God, I'm escaped for something exciting. And then I was taken to a marina in northern Wisconsin, and that sounds like it could be pretty. It was not. Most of the boats were white. There were no colors reflected in the water. The day was overcast. The water was murky. And so I sat there for about 30 minutes, just kind of looking around, and I thought, I'm just going to photograph the shiny stuff. And I got this one, I liked it. So that's that one, a lesson for me. And this one represents the most difficult thing I had to take in camera. So it's a combination of ICM, camera motion, and then a still shot superimposed. And so it's a double exposure where you have to kind of swoop the flowers and then looking in your camera, superimpose the other stem of flowers so that you still get a still view of it. So that's what I call flash cams.
Was that 2 shots?
2 shots. My camera only does 2 multiples. The camera I was using only does 2 multiples. And the hard part about it, would you think like you're swooping this way? You're not. You have to swoop in the opposite direction of where you think you're moving, and then have to look in your camera and superimpose the still shot just right on it. So that was my most challenging.
Thank you.
Well, first I should start by saying that I didn't read the information with the image submission for tonight, so I didn't realize I was gonna have to talk.
Says the publicity guy.
Yeah, it says the publicity guy. You saw this one in the last competition. In May this year, a friend of mine contacted me and asked if I'd be interested in going on a canoe adventure for a week in Wisconsin, in Minnesota, excuse me. And I said, yeah, this is like one of my bucket list things that I want to do. Never done it before, totally out of shape, not ready, but I really want to do this. Well, we get there and as it turns out, there's a storm coming in about 4 days. But it's beginning already to show itself. And so we start this trip and we take off and we paddle 14 hours.
Oh my gosh.
So we get to a campsite, set up camp, and I'm thinking the next morning I'm gonna go fishing. Well, this was before the trip, I'm thinking, I'm going to go fishing every day, as every opportunity. In the morning, I get up and I'm not going fishing. So I took this is shot with an iPhone, went out, and a couple of the other guys in our group were out in the canoe fishing. And I thought, well, I can do this. I can take photos. So that's how we came to this. And the next image, I don't know if you remember, if you were members of the club back in February, we had a field trip to Bombay Beach out by Salton Sea, at the Salton Sea. And this, when I went and did my research early on, this was one of the installations that I saw there. And I just had to shoot it. And there you go.
Oh. Okay, so that is, I took that illegally. I stopped during the line fire. That is on the 210, we were going by Pinewood Avenue towards Redlands. Yeah, I stopped in this fast lane, put my hazards on and parked at an angle and took that. Got a ticket. But yeah, that is a pyrocumulus cloud. So this is the reason why they weren't allowed to fly at all, drones or anything. That is what was causing lightning, hail.
Yeah.
When I was on that fire after that day, we had rain, flooding, hail, and it was a nightmare actually on it. And that was about 48,000 feet to 100,000 feet high.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's go to, okay, so if you went on the trip, our field trip to Mission San Juan Capistrano, people who went, that is where inside the church, for where they have where everybody prays to Arupa and kisses his shin. I do not know why. And this was a guy in there who yelled at me afterwards also for intruding his space. But as a photojournalist, I really didn't care. It's better ask permission than to seek forgiveness. And took that while he was praying to Harupa. And that one actually just won an award.
Nicely.
All right, we're going to Zoom. Go ahead, Dave. We're all ears.
I'm right here. Just FYI, the screen is blurry on my end. So, but anyway, this photograph is a bald eagle and a raven, and it's in Yellowstone National Park from last May. I used a 400 with a 1.4 converter. It's cropped a little bit, but not much. The raven was giving the eagle some issues, and the eagle, just finally put his head down and pretty much kind of said, "This is enough." I was there for, I don't know, maybe half an hour, and yes, I deleted most of them because the eagle was just standing there and the raven was just standing there until finally we got some behavior. So, that's my shot. Okay, this is a boys soccer game from last week, and the young man in the blue, okay, the dark blue, he's doing a flying kick, and he's off the ground. And I thought it was cool because he's got the ball, he's off the ground. I got good facial and gesture in the hands. So, yeah, there you go.
Carol, go ahead and announce names when they're coming up.
Okay.
Stephanie Billings. So this is a frozen flower. I took a course last year or earlier this year on freezing flowers and then photographing them. And this was one of my first ones. There's different ways that you can do it. And I think I wasn't listening at one point, and I just went and got some water and did it. So that's with water, regular water. But the one that I won, which probably I got an award for it. It was all bubbly, and that's because I was using distilled water. But I really like the flatness of the water, and most people don't realize that it's frozen. The only thing that is out of the water is this distilled air. Everything else is underwater. So that's really fun to do. It's really fun to do, and it doesn't always work.
Is it in an ice cube then?
I have little trays that I freeze. I put them in, put water in it, either halfway or all the way, depending on how much time I have. And if it's all the way, it comes out looking like this. If you do it halfway, it actually comes out maybe 2 or 3 dimensional if you, especially if part of it's out. But it's not as easy as it sounds. You know, it sounded really easy, but I do get a lot of air bubbles and stuff. And then this one, I think I was in New York or somewhere. I don't remember. But what I do remember, I call this to Grandma's house. And I love being in the woods. When I was young, my father was in the military and we lived in Europe. And this was my backyard in Europe, minus the fence. And anytime I see something like this, it just takes me back. And it's not so much that it's not the image so much as it is the memory. And I find that the ones that I like the most are the ones that remind me of something that I can relate to either in my life or somebody that I know life. But also the other thing is, real quickly, the light was on here and you see the shadow that lasted for all of long enough for me to click, because the next click it was gone. So that's it.
Cool, excellent.
Lori, you're on Zoom.
All right. All right. Well, I should have said there was an order to these, but that's okay. So I was at Santee Lakes photographing the pinebill grebes, and the parent was going down catching. And as I'm watching these grebes go by, I'm laying in the grass with the camera, and I was still for a long time. And this grackle didn't see me, and he's walking down the shore collecting as many dragonflies as he could. He's really greedy. And so I really like the image because of that. And here's the grebes. So the parent goes down and he catches these little crayfish, but the crayfish are so big in the baby's beak that they look like lobsters. But here's the baby begging the parent to go get him some more. He's still hungry. I really like the parent and juvenile relationship in the picture. So they were fun. I spent the day out there just photographing these birds in June. They're out there, and if you stay still in the grass, you can get some really good shots.
Are you done? Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Christine.
So I was out in Bosque del Apache last week, freezing, and I was also in Bernardo Wildlife Management Area, which I found to be far more superior than Bosque. Bosque looks tired. There's not much water. The fields are boring. The birds have announced that they're boring. And so most of the birds were over in Bernardo for any kind of exercise with birds. Bosque was interesting for other animals. There was a lot of driving around, and if you really wanted cranes, you went to Bernardo. So this was early in the morning on the first morning at Bosque. I'm trying to find an angle on these birds with a background that's a little difficult. No light, it's like 20 degrees. We're frozen, the birds are frozen. Why they're standing there? He's got one leg up because he's trying to figure out how to stay warm. But anyway, so that was early in the morning before he took off. And the colors are interesting. This was at Bernardo. I don't know which one, it doesn't matter. Anyway, the cranes and the geese fly out, but they fly like 100 feet. They get to this field. They stand around looking at each other, getting down, their heads pointing this way, getting ready to fly out. But you know, it's still cold, so they don't move too fast. One after another will think about moving, and then eventually they all fly out another 100 feet across the road to the cornfield. So this was about 6 something in the morning, maybe a little bit later, maybe 7, and it's still 20 degrees. It was still frozen, trying to capture them. I think what's interesting in an early morning like this is that it looks cold. It looks frosty, and it moves. So it's an interesting challenge. I shoot micro four thirds, so to try and get enough light to keep the movement not too busy. It's an interesting challenge. Anyway, there you are. Those are the 2 mornings. Thank you.
So I'm a goal setting kind of person. And with photography, I try to have at least 2 goals every year. And one was to do my first star trail because I've never done one before. And the other one, because my eyes are getting bad, is to figure out how I can get a sharp focus. And so my 2 images are based on that. So this is my first star trail that I've ever done. This is in Death Valley. It was shot at 2.8. I did 500 frames in 6-second intervals. If I were to do it over, I would do it in 4-second intervals, so there's not so many gaps between the stars. But it was really fun to put together, and I learned a ton from it. So reach goal number 1. Goal number 2 for focus. I call this Larry the Laughing Turtle. I don't know if his name is Larry, and I don't know if he's laughing. He could be having lunch. But I really like the texture and the patterns of his shell. And it's actually in focus. So goal number 2. And that's it.
So last December, my wife and I were in Paris for her birthday, and if you want to go ahead. So our first morning was super brisk, and there was this really cool park near our hotel, and I just loved how, despite being cold, there were all these people like out there trying to get a little bit of sun, and it was kind of fun to catch the reflection. I like street photography. And then the next shot. These are the kind of people you see in Paris. And I'm 100% certain I could not pull that look off.
Yeah, maybe that's my town.
Yes, you have some in-person photos to be shared.
So I gotta pick out two. That's a bridge down at, in Corona. At Dos Lagos, isn't it?
Those lines.
This is one of the gals who was in our group. She was walking down and showing me questions. That's a house across from my sister's house in Michigan. That was last spring when the trees in our complex all had leaves on them. We got that heavy rainstorm and the leaves all ended up on the sidewalk. I just walked around and snapped two pictures of it.
We don't see the picture changing on the Zoom.
They're in.
Because it's in person, you have to look at what he's seeing. Let me change the ratio. And I'm not sure why it's fuzzing out. Sorry, guys.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. All I see is says Dennis Taylor in person showing. That's all it shows. It's not showing the image.
That's because he's in person. He's holding it in his hand.
Right,
So is he
So it's a print?
yes.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Are you looking at the screen?
No, I've been just watching the slideshows.
Yeah, there's another image that shows him holding it, but we can't see it very clearly here, Stan.
Okay. To make sure I wasn't going blind.
Nope.
So can they do it or not?
Go ahead.
Okay, so that's a vertical picture of the same thing. So this was at the museum down in Palm Springs. That was a room that had a whole bunch of glass in it. It's a hummingbird in the glass thing. This was a picture at the beach down in Newport. That's an eagle coming, bird coming straight at me. Obviously, that's it. This one is a house in Palm Springs that was moved from New York to the museum down in Palm Springs. It's made all out of aluminum, and they would sit right next to the museum. And at some point in the future, they're going to let us go inside of it. When we were there, we couldn't go inside. I think that's about it.
Am I standing where I'm supposed to be? Hey, I want to apologize to everybody. I turned my mic off on my computer, but apparently Bruce said you guys could hear Stephanie and me whispering. So I apologize to you for that. I thought my mic was all the way off. This is a picture I took up in Ricketts Glen in Pennsylvania. I went to work on a workshop there, and there was they had 24 waterfalls there. The color's off. Is it because oh no, it's because I'm looking at it sideways. There we go. Anyway, it looked like it was terrible. But this is one of the photos I took. Recently this year, I sold a couple of houses for other people. And I got some really nice commissions, and I bought a Nikon Z8 camera. And now I have a problem. My pictures are all coming out much sharper. And so I'm getting a lot better pictures out of the camera. But this is one of the waterfalls that was there, and we caught it. I was surprised that if you're taking pictures of fall colors, if you do them without the sun out, you know, in the shade, I was surprised that they pop. And I've got 2 or 3 people there sitting there nodding their heads and telling me That's really true. So that was something I learned on the workshop, and I just really enjoyed the myriad of waterfalls that were there. And this is one of the many pictures that I took. So the next one. I also went to a workshop in Colorado to photograph cowboys and horses. And this is one of the cowgirls that was there riding out there. And the picture I really wanted to get was her kissing. She showed such a loving kindness towards her horse. And she was talking to it and giving it a nice kiss. And I asked her to pose with the horse. And this is the picture that I got of her. And I have both of these pictures back on the wall there. And I just really enjoyed my wife tells me I do a really good job of doing portraits, and I just don't do enough of them. So if any of you would like your portraits done, come and see me. I'll be happy to do a session with you. You know, and I won't charge you for it, but I wanted some model pieces to go with it so I can put them on my website. All right, thank you.
Gary,
Yes. Well, I hadn't planned on showing these, but last Wednesday, Bruce had a trip out to the Mission Inn, and we're taking pictures of the lights and stuff, and so we started goofing around with using a zoom on the long exposure. And so these are just a couple that I took. I was actually just going to show Bruce, but anyway, I don't know whether you can see these on the camera or not. But this was
Really nice.
taken on Aperture 13 seconds, f/22, ISO 100, 35mm. And the other one, this one says joy if you look at it close enough. And again, it was on Aperture with a 3.2 second exposure, f/22, ISO 100, 35mm. And like I said, I hadn't planned on showing. I would have printed them bigger if I knew it was going to be up here, but anyway, that's those.
Hello.
All right, speak up.
Okay. This is a picture I took in Alaska. I was fortunate enough to go on a trip in May, and I like the reflection, and I love the sky. I was very proud of this picture. One of my better ones. That's it. And this is my attempt at fireworks, and I put 3 different blasts together. And before I did that, I watched Bruce's a lesson that he shared with us, and it was on YouTube. And he taught me how to do this. So I was real pleased. So thank you, Bruce.
Turned out great.
Yeah, sure do.
before we throw it over to Bruce, because I think you're in the last one in the lineup, did I miss anybody?
Rick, you had something?
Rick, you had something Thursday. You want to come up and do that?
Oh, okay.
And we have more on Zoom too to share.
Okay. But I don't have pictures.
All right, how are we going to show those on Zoom? We'll get to that in a minute.
Share the screen.
Stay there, okay, I'll change the camera towards you.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yeah, you can go ahead and show it around the room as well.
I think everybody here has already seen it. This is Rainbow Falls in Watkins Glen State Park in New York State. I was back there 2018 for New York Marathon. So, and the marathon's the beginning of November. So traveling around before the marathon, wound up going up to this park. This gorge goes back about a mile, a little over a mile, and just one waterfall area after another. And fortunately, it was a day that was kind of misty and sprinkly and stuff like that, because I've had other people that have been there before ask me how I managed to get the picture with no people in it. They weren't there because of the bad weather, but I was. So it's a beautiful area. I mean, this one, like I say, it goes up for a whole mile. You follow these steps, bridges, different things like that to get around to.
Rick, what time of year? I mean, I know it was fall, but when September, October?
It was very end of October. Because right after this, I ran New York Marathon, and that was the first weekend in November. So right at that time period. And this one is up at Bristlecone Pine National Forest. It's a gorgeous area, 2,000-3,000-year-old trees. And I was up there, I got really lucky. Again, this is late in the fall, so it really, really helped a lot. I've got snow on the Sierra Mountains in the background there. Without the snow, you wouldn't even notice them. But with the snow, they definitely stand out. Fortunately, it was a cloudy day, everything nice. Now, on the hawk, when I started processing the picture initially, I was like, I need some up in this corner. And so I went up in Yucaipa, an area where I know there's a lot of hawks. And I spent 2 days up there shooting pictures of hawks. And managed to get this one coming in for a landing. Have another one, the same thing, with it just kind of floating around in the air up above. But for me, this is art. If I was out with someone with their pastel or oil painting and a thing to paint on, and they were putting the hawk in, I wouldn't go up and slap them because there was no hawk there. But I really like it. I like everything on the metal prints, the colors, the detail, everything just pops, and it'll last almost forever. Super lightweight, easy to hang, and nice to play around with.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Nice.
All right, we're going to share on the Zoom. So who's going to go first?
Oh, I think Stan had some, but this is Ann. I'm happy to share my screen.
Please do.
Okay, I'm
Sorry,
going to.
sorry, Ann was talking to mute. Go ahead.
Okay. Well,
Go ahead. I got you. I'm behind you.
Okay.
No, you go first.
Okay. So I live, as you know, in the Pacific Northwest, and I have a backyard bird habitat. And whenever I'm trying to photograph a bird, they elude me, not always, but sometimes. This one I heard, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit before I show you the picture. I heard a thud in a vine maple tree, and I went to explore, and I saw a very different shaped bird in the tree, and it had what looked like 2 feathered eyes. And it turned around, and this is what can you see it?
There it is.
Okay. This is what's called a northern pygmy owl. And it has a house finch in its clutches. And of course, like I said, I can't show you 2 pictures, but the back of its head has white feathers with dark on the inside for as a camouflage for predators. And he sat there because he had prey. He sat there, and I was able to go in and get my camera and come back out and get quite a few photographs in the vine maple of this poor bird struggling because it was a slow death. But it's the first time I ever saw a pygmy owl, northern pygmy owl, and this is the Cascade version. They have a little more of a reddish hue to it. So I was really happy to get that in my backyard.
Beautiful.
And yeah, thank you.
Do you have another one to share?
I do, and I have to figure out how to, okay, there, let me go down. So, I live close to the Canadian border and I went up a couple of times this year to photograph the great gray. Got a lot of pictures of it sitting and sitting and sitting, which is what I always like to do. But this is the one that I was really happy with. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so he's coming in for a landing. Of course, he didn't give me a background that was as soft as I would have liked. But I don't really like to replace background. So you've got some of the forest there, which is nature. And I just love the thing about the great gray owl that just is mesmerizing to me is they have these cute little feet that look almost like Muppets. And then they've got these talons that are coming out of it. And, they're just a whole mix of contradictions being, cute and soft and terrible predators at the same time. They're just gorgeous. And you don't see the frontal view of the eyes on this one, but you get a little glimpse of the eyes, but the eyes are very haunting on a great gray. And if I may, just in the spirit of Christmas, I want to show you 3 birds from Canada very quickly.
And I'm gonna cut you off there, sorry.
Are you? You're gonna make me go?
We can hang out afterwards.
Okay, all right, I'll show you afterwards because
All
they're
right.
all red. Okay, that's all.
Thank you.
Sure. Now, how do we get back?
I'll start sharing.
He has to stop sharing.
No, I can start sharing.
And if Stan starts, it'll bump this one off.
Yeah, well.
But you have to show his screen, maybe, in his screen?
I'm trying to.
There you go.
You got it?
Maybe. It looks very thin.
Thin.
Just getting the top of the picture.
Yeah, I don't think you're doing it right. Looks like you're sharing a PSD.
No. No.
Share a screen and
I'm sharing Lightroom. Let's see. Maybe Lightroom shows me a bunch of different. Let's see if
shared
it's
it
the first
before,
thing.
Stan.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Let me see if this is it. That's funny. It's trying to. Do you see it now or not?
No, it's best if you share your desktop.
Okay. I'll do that.
That way you see what we see, what you see.
Yeah, I got you.
Bingo.
Nice.
Ow.
Anybody know what that is?
It's a bug.
It's a bug. Yeah. It's a bug with out of the top 10 bites of a bug. It's number 4. So if you're going from 10 to 1, that's number 4. It's called a red ant. So I found him outside my house, picked him up and picked him up very carefully with another thing and stuck him on a mirror because I wanted to see what he would do. Whole time on the mirror, he just sat there and looked at himself.
He's just like us.
Right. And that I used to raise monarchs. So this is a monarch butterfly that was getting ready to leave, and I was all set up to get the shot, and I got the shot. So I have tons more, but we're limited to 2, so I'm only showing 2.
Awesome.
I like the creepy bug on the mirror.
Yeah. Now, did anybody else on Zoom have something? Going once? Going twice?
So.
All right, we're back to in person, and that's me. Well, ho ho again. We've seen some beautiful photos, and when you take as many photos as some of you do, how do you narrow it down to two? Right, I figure every year I take about 12,000 photos. That would be 1,000 at the bowl, 1,000 at the bicycle classic, easily. And to narrow it down, normally I'm big on top 10. Normally when I post to Facebook, I post 5. But you want me to pick 2 for the whole year? This is tricky. So this is my first one. You saw it at the competition. This is one of those ones where typically when I go to Joshua Tree, and this is the Aurora Joshua Tree. And when I go to Joshua Tree, I say, you know what? People are jealous of me when I shoot at Joshua Tree. I'm jealous of them when they go to Iceland to see the auroras. Well, here I got to see the auroras in Joshua Tree. And the moon was rising. That's why it looks like a daylight shot, Mr. Judge. This wasn't a composition. This is actually what the camera saw. And I was just so pleased and tickled because I had gone out in May when it first came and I missed it totally. And when I heard that it was coming, I went up to Big Bear and thinking that, my luck, it would show up, I would stay till 10:30, 11, I would drive home and it would show up at 1 or 2. But it was there, it was gorgeous. And I drove on the other side of the mountain all the way into Joshua Tree, stopping every 15 minutes with my phone to, yep, still there, kept going. Yep. So I pulled into Quail Springs, which if you know Joshua Tree, it's the first spot that you can get to. And I probably have one of the best Aurora with outhouse pictures, ever taken. And so once I knew that it was still there, I went to my favorite tree. This is Behemoth. It's 28 feet tall. This is one of my standard, if I have to go a go-to place in Joshua Tree, this is it here with Aurora and Joshua Tree at Behemoth. Next photo. This is, I coordinate the volunteer photographers for the Redlands Bowl, and getting that firework finale is one of the things that I look forward to every year. And all season long, I'm planning, where am I going to be? Am I going to go low? Am I going to go high? Am I going to shoot left? Am I going to shoot right? Okay, what about this lens? And I'm testing lenses all season long. And I had just gotten this 11 millimeter fisheye. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go right up front because I've never had the audience as so well defined here. And it's just one of my favorite pictures of the year. What do I going to say? Yes, Russ.
Bruce, what lens were you using for that? Was it
This was the 11 millimeter fisheye,
okay.
TT Artisan.
Okay.
Is the brand of it. It's only a couple $100, very inexpensive lens there. But as we've been, we had, we're on a journey. We're all learning, and we want to end the year with the bang. So
what was exposure time?
A little bit about your post processing.
Post processing, you're gonna have to look at my YouTube video on right. So this is not one shot, right? When fireworks happen, they go ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo. And so this is multi-shot over the entire process. You really want to get fireworks in the first few minutes if you can, just because otherwise you have too much smoke that you're dealing with. And so they don't shoot that long over there, but it's I always shoot. It's a composite as well. Shoot the foreground separate, then you do the background, just like my nighttime shots. Because if I do a multi-second exposure on the violinist, or you want the conductor, and I'm always waiting for that conductor with his hands in the air, and that's what he's got right over here. His hands are in the air, and so you get that over there.
Can you do those sound effects one more time?
I think this is the one you need to do it on.
Yes, there we go. So thank you so much for everybody who's showing their photos. We had some beautiful photos. Recognition. Yes. Wayne Purcell, you want to come up to the front? Wayne has been on the program committee for the last few years and has just done a bang up job working with Russ. And he is stepping down from that, from his role. He's got some other things that he's going to be pursuing.
I'll still be around though.
Yeah, still be around, still be participating, still winning blue ribbons, and all of that. But we want to thank you very much for your participation, for your service. And Cheryl.
So all the members went to pool together their money and we got you a little gift. Just kidding. So this is like an original, hot off the press. No one else has one like it. It's your very own RCC bookmark.
And, learn, shoot, edit, share. In the spirit of share, as we've shared this evening, anybody who's interested, I have a Redlands calendar for you. So, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And that's going to conclude the evening. We got lots of food. Stay for fun. Thank you so much.
I guess we're not going to be able to eat the food, everybody, unless you know something I don't know. So I guess we're going to probably say goodnight, unless anyone has a question or a comment. Oh, we won't be able to talk anyway over that. So nice to see everybody.
Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and
go ahead and put them up. We'd love to see
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, see you next year.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, Dorothy.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, yeah, same to you.
And I
Merry
loved
Christmas,
everyone's
everybody.